Welcome to another episode of Chat Sports Talk. You know my name's Chad. Take a dive on sports. And welcome to another video in terms of college football realignment. Once again, that word is still floating around. The Big 12 has stated that they're still open for business. Oklahoma and Texas will still be in that conference in 2023. It will be a 14-member conference. Then they'll leave for the SEC the following season. Other news has, besides that, they've also still have interest in the four corner programs of the Pac-12, so Colorado, Utah, Arizona State. Even though if you listen to the ADs and university presidents of majority of the universities in the Pac, they have stated they are very well cemented and staying put. They're having a hard time getting the media rights deal because they don't have the powerhouses USC, UCLA, and there's still rumors floating around about Oregon, Washington, and now even Colorado. And the top two candidates right now that the Pac is looking at is San Diego State, SMU. I covered that scenario in the previous video, where I also added that they should probably add like Rice and UNLV. And people kind of looked at me kind of funny about that one, but Rice is more of an educational aspect, more get into Houston, get more of a footprint in Texas. That's the reason why I went there. I see the upside for like UTSA getting in there because they're definitely a program on the rise, but that's a story for a different time frame. This one is looking at a possible implosion of the Pac. If they can't secure San Diego State, and I think San Diego State is key in keeping the Pac together. If they cannot get San Diego State to join, the Pac is doomed. They may be doomed anyways. New reports are coming out of another scenario that could possibly play a huge factor in the demise of the conference. And if that domino falls, this video is the process of the rest of how the rest of the dominoes could fall. There are many different areas and scenarios how this could actually play out. This is just one of them. Before I dive into all that, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, especially if you like the content provider. Really please, you two guys really help put this channel out. You also subscribe. Now, not many of you are subscribed. Doesn't cost you a dime. It helps me provide more entertainment value for you. Now, what do I mean by, another domino could fall? Over the weekend, and it has been out there that Oregon and Washington has been cleared and vetted to join the Big Ten. The Big Ten wants to come more schools out west to kind of help balance out the conference a little bit. They want USC and UCLA to be their own little island there in LA. They want to give them some competition. And Oregon and Washington makes absolute perfect sense in that aspect. I don't like the aspect of the Pac or the Big Ten going out to the Pac schools and plucking them. Always love the idea of the Big Ten and the Pac going out in the Rose Bowl every year. I grew up in Big Ten country, so that's one of the things that was kind of intoned in the region I was at. It wasn't a big Big Ten program where I was at. There's one close by, not very good most of the time. Now, Oregon and Washington being vetted and cleared to join the Big Ten. There's actually, the Big Ten's came out and said they had no plans as of right now. This could be in place if the Pac cannot get a Big 12 style television contract. But they can't get that contract unless they get new teams, and new teams won't join unless they get a new contract. So they're stuck in this holding pattern. They don't know how to be able to work the landing gears to get the plane down. The pilots are passed out. So how they do this. And then we got a couple of other, people that are pilots looking on strap-on parachutes and jumping out the plane anyways. It's a hard scenario for the conference itself. This is a conference, one of the oldest conferences in NCAA, to find itself on the cusp of just collapsing and possibly just disappearing. Now, I believe that this conference itself should find a way to survive. But like I said, this is one possible domino effect in case things do not pan out. And two conferences will be in play in looking at picking up the pieces, shall we say. Both the Big Ten and Big 12 have shown interest in going west. The Big 12 wants to be a national conference. They already got teams in West Virginia and Florida. They're mainly in Texas. Now they're out in Utah with BYU. They will love nothing better than go out to the West Coast and really go a national conference to really help solidify their position. And the Big Ten's already shown interest of going into Oregon and Washington, getting other AAU programs, and what else is going to happen. This scenario, I'm not going to cover the aspects of these leagues getting any bigger because I'm not touching the ACC. The ACC right now is a different beast, and there's starting to be rumblings in there as well that could lead to the creation of two super leagues. Maybe these super leagues go up to 32 and they do their own mini playoffs and they're your national champions between the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, that could be a future that many of us may not want, but it could end up going that way. But that's a doomsday scenario that I am not touching as of yet. But this is just, like I said, this is like one scenario I'm coming up with. So we'll start with the Big Ten. And since we know that Oregon and Washington are kind of leaning towards the Big Ten, so say the Pac cannot get the deals. The expanding the San Diego State SMU falls completely. These 10 schools look like we're not going to be able to compete nationally, money-wise, with the other conferences. If it's just us 10, we have to find other places to play to ensure our athletic programs generate enough money to make us more successful. Thus, I think Oregon and Washington would then apply to join the Big Ten. The Big Ten would absolutely welcome them in. Put them in the 18. Stop there. Let's go to 20. Now, with 20, Stanford would definitely be number one on the list because it's also an AAU program. We'll also probably look at Cal. Cal's not AAU, but definitely has a very high academic standard. I'm sure they can get AAU approval. They are R1 Research University. So them being added then completes their West Coast claim, give them to 20, and then leaves any other possible expansion south once the ACC becomes irrelevant as well. But that's, like I said, this is one possible scenario. I think they add Oregon, Washington. They're going to hang tight and wait to see how things kind of play out. Because I still think they want Notre Dame in. I want Notre Dame in. But that's just another scenario. This is just what happens if, the Pac starts to implode. Oregon, Washington, first ones to leave, which starts the whole dominoes. You might see Cal and Stanford also join the Big Ten as well, and it may not. Now for the Big 12, the four corner schools definitely get added, so that brings you Colorado, Utah, Arizona State, exactly what they wanted. So they're in the four corners down to Central Florida, up in the Mid-Atlantic or West Virginia, and they still want to go out west. So adding the four corners brings up to 16. Why not go up to 20? This is another possible scenario. They can just go ahead and grab Oregon State, Washington State, bring those two in. That would have their end-of-year feud with the Big Ten. Now, they'd be very advantageous. They bring in San Diego State, actually get them into California, in a decent-sized market as well. And for that 20th member, I went with South Florida, just to give Central Florida something close by. Also gives you Tampa. But that's just a placeholder. I think Memphis will probably be on that list. SMU will be on that list. I think Tulane might, garner some attention. So there's Boise State's another one that could possibly look at as well. Fresno State to keep them, put 4 teams on the West Coast. So there's definitely some other schools you could put in there, and I don't no problem. I just put South Florida in there to get Central Florida, someone close by. Because West Virginia has Cincinnati. UCF has no one. I gave them South Florida. Doesn't mean it's going to work. And this is, like I said, an extreme case of the total collapse of the Pac, and they go into 2 conferences. Now, I do have another scenario I'm working on where the Pac stays alive, but definitely a shell of their former selves. And they may or may not be viable in the upcoming football landscape. But, that's just another video for another time. This is just like a quick little synopsis of what possibly could happen. Like I said, Oregon and Washington have been vetted and cleared to join the Big Ten. Right now, that's on hold because it said they can be within the next 5 minutes or the next 5 years. So they're not in any big hurry to expand beyond 16. I really think they really need to ensure the 16 system works, and they'll start adding programs. How is it going to affect scheduling? How's it going to affect other sports? The SEC right now is on the holding pattern at 16. I think they're waiting for the ACC to disassemble, and they'll pick up a lot of programs there because they want to go to North Carolina. They want to go into Virginia and spread out that direction, which makes perfect sense since a lot of them have ties into the old SoCon where they all originated from at one point in time. So it makes perfect sense that way, especially if you grab like Clemson, Florida State, Miami. They'll probably want to go after some of the Carolina programs. So there's definitely some programs there that would fit well with the SEC. I still think the SEC should go after Oklahoma State anyways to balance out the West, but that's just me. And that's, like I said, it's a topic for a different time frame. But, the land of college football realignment is ever changing, ever evolving. You never know when the process is going to stop or when the process should stop. I think right now it should stop for the Big Ten SEC. Let the 16-team conferences play out, kind of see how things kind of go. If they're successful, go further. Because you already got the playoffs expanded to 12 teams. Why dilute your product by adding more schools? I understand adding Oregon and Washington brings a couple more powerhouses into the Big Ten. But you already got USC, UCLA. You already have Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, if they ever decide to start being a national power once again. I mean, you already have those programs in place that are synonymous with having good football programs most of the time. But you start putting all these teams together, I mean, yeah, do they beat each other up and then raise their profile? Absolutely. But also, they beat each other up, which means they drag their records down. Now you're going to have an undefeated Georgia team or undefeated Michigan team, which proves to be a non-factor on these last playoffs. Sorry, Wolverine fans. But it's just one of these things that I think conferences need to go back down in size, not expand out. Fine-tune your rivalries in there. Get your conference games down to 8-9 games. It gives you 3 to 4 games out of the conference. You can get great rivalry games, great matchups, some marquee matchups, non-conference play. But once again, that's just my opinion. And we all know about opinions. Everyone has one, just like an certain body part, and that all stinks. So I'll get off that soapbox and just kind of go with, right now, the probability of Oregon Washington going to the Big Ten, I give it a 50-50 shot right now. I really do. I think the Big Ten wants to go there. Oregon brings in Nike money. Seattle, Boeing, hello. So 2 huge sponsors they can probably get. And it will make sense to bring in the two teams out of the Northwest to kind of help balance out the western portion of the Big Ten. two powerhouses. I mean, Oregon's been in the national spotlight for a few years now. Washington's kind of come back in. So, these definitely some teams you could definitely raise the bar for the Big Ten. But once again, it all depends on the Pac and their ability to secure a television contract comparable to the Big 12. I think it's 27 mil. But with the 10 teams they have, they're not going to get nowhere near that. They'd be lucky if they sniff 20. If they add San Diego State, they could possibly get up there to at least 20, if not 22, 24. It's that other team or teams that they add in. So like they added SMU, gives you a decent sized market. And if you add in Rice, another big time market. Will Rice draw the fans? Probably not. But you have the capability of doing that. I mean, would they draw more if Oregon came to town like every other year? Probably. Or Utah, or anyone that's doing really well, like Washington or Washington State, Oregon State. Quite possibly. Wouldn't hold my breath, but that gives you the opportunity to generate more money for Rice, which then will help them generate more and possibly get recruiting a little bit more football talent. I'm not saying it's going to make a overall change for the program, and if it does, it will take years, if not at least a decade, for them to be a little more sustainable. That's what I bring in UNLV as well. They already play in Las Vegas for a lot aspects anyway, so where the Pac-12 championship games at for both football and basketball. You bring in a NFL caliber, NFL stadium into the mix, so why not? I know UNLV doesn't bring anything to the table athletically. I get that. I understand the notion possibly, Boise State, Fresno State. So I get those two as well. So it's one of those things I think the Pac is looking at programs that could be R1 research facilities, which is the rest of their conference. Rice will be in there just because they're AAU, just like Stanford. That's the reason I think they will add Rice anyways, because of the academics. I could see him possibly going after Tulane. I think Tulane's a bit of a stretch. Tulane-Memphis is a bit of a stretch, but I think Tulane makes a little bit more sense because they beat USC. So that'd be kind of a stab at USC, but I don't know going that far east is what the Pac wants to do, but the Pac might have to do that to try to survive. But like I said, that's just another scenario altogether. I've already covered that in video, so I'm not going to dwell on it much longer than I've already have. But like I said, this particular domino falling scenario all depends on the Pac getting that television contract that's comparable with the Big 12s. So was that, $24 million, $25 million contract? Can they do it with the 10 teams they have now? No. They need at least San Diego State and one more to get them close to that mark. And if they don't get that, what happens to the Pac? I think the Pac will be a shell of its former self. They will definitely just collapse. Probably go the way of the Big East. And this is one possible scenario of that happening. But hey, just let me know down in the comments below what you think. Like I said, I got another one coming out where the Pac does survive, but it's definitely not what it once was. But hey, just let me know down below what you think. Do you think this is a far-fetched idea, or do you think this is actually a plausible idea and then waiting for the other shoe to drop on the ACC side? Once you're down there, make sure you hit the thumbs up once again. You can also share this video with friends and family. It helps promote this video out. Once you subscribe, make sure you click that bell icon, turn on notifications so next time I post any more content on my channel. And I will see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.